सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। हरिः ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओं। We are in fourth chapter in Bhagavad Gita. We have completed up to 8th sloka. And now we are proceeding from 9th sloka onwards. Before that, we'll just have a quick recap of the last class. In slokas 1 to 8, Paramatma chose a different topic. He made a slight detour from the original topic, which is Jnanam. In these slokas, he mentioned about two important topics. One is called the Gita Stuti, the importance of Gita, the prominence of Gita. Paramatma gave this Vedic wisdom in Vedic times, and it was spread among the royal sages. Due to long passage of time, the knowledge is lost. So that Vedic knowledge Paramatma wanted to give once and again to Arjuna in the name of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is a moksha shastram, a shastram which can liberate you, which can give you freedom, from samsara. So this is the importance of Bhagavad Gita. This is as good as studying the entire Vedic literature, because Bhagavad Gita is Upanishad Saram. If you study Bhagavad Gita, you get the effect of studying the Upanishads. So this is the first topic. The second topic is Paramatma wanted to give the importance of his avataram, the avatara rahasyam, the secrecy of his incarnation. If a human being is born, it is called simply a janma or a fall. It is called a fall. Whereas if Bhagavan appears in the human form, it is called descendant. It is called descendants or descent. It is called avataram or incarnation. There are three basic differences between the human janma and Bhagavan's avataram. In the very cause itself, there is a difference. At the karanam, there is a difference. The human being is born because of ajnanam. He is not aware his real self, and because of his ignorance, the human being is helplessly born, helplessly taking the birth. So that is the karanam for human janma. Whereas Bhagavan is all knowledgeable, he is omniscient. So he is taking birth with full knowledge, with fully aware of his avataram. He is taking the avataram or incarnation, or taking the appearance as a human being. He is appearing as a human being with fully knowledgeable or having complete knowledge. This is at the Karanam level. Then second level is Swarupam. At Swarupa level, there is a difference. At Swarupa level, there is a difference means, what is the difference? Swarupam, there is a difference means the human janma or human appearance is because of the 5 basic elements, Panchabhutas. Human birth is because of 5 elements. The 5 elements are the Akasam, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. These 5 elements are born initially in a subtle form, and then they grossify and become gross 5 elements, and human body is consisting of these 5 elements. Therefore, his body is called Bhautikam. Human body is called Bhautikam. Whereas a Paramatma's body is not made up of the 5 elements. He is directly from Maya. So that is why his body is called Mayikam. He is called Lila Manusha Vigraha, Maya Manusha Vigraha. Like that they say his body is Mayikam. And he need not take birth from the human womb. Like in case of Matsyavataram, Kurmavataram or Narsimhavataram, he has appeared, God appeared directly without any 9 months stage of taking birth and all that. So Bhagavan's birth is out of knowledge and his body is Mayikam. Then the purpose of Bhagavan's Janma, why Bhagavan takes birth, if you analyze, Bhagavan takes birth out of compassion, out of love towards the human beings. Because he wants to do good to the entire world, he takes birth. Whereas a human being takes birth helplessly. He takes birth helplessly. That is why in Mundakopanishad, we say there are 2 birds. One bird is eating and it is enjoying when the fruit is sweet. It is showing faces. It is showing faces when the fruit is not good. But the other bird is simply watching and enjoying. Like that, Paramatma is here as a Sakshi Bhutam. So, the Paramatma's avataram, the avataram or the incarnation of Paramatma is out of compassion, out of his love towards the human beings. Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām vināsāya ca duskrutāṃ dharma samsthapanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge. Sadhūnām paritrāṇāya. In order to safeguard all sadhus, in order to destroy all the evil people and to establish dharmam. God is appearing. When God appears, Sambhavami yuge yuge, aham sambhavami yuge yuge. I appear time and often. In every need of the hour, I do appear. Dharmika purushanam rakshanena dharmaha rakshitaha bhavati. Scientists, musicians, and dharmic people, if you look at them, if you want the improvement and the advancement in the science, the scientists must be protected. Similarly, if you want to encourage music in the country, the musicians must be protected. If you want to have dharma in the world, the dharmic people must be protected. Adharmika purushanam nasanena adharmaha nashtaha bhavati. By killing adharmic people, by destroying adharmic people, we can safeguard dharma, and adharma can be avoided. In Dhyana slokas, we have an excellent sloka. Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadratha Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Telyagrahavati Krupena Vahani Karnena Velakula Aswadhama Vikarnagora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sottirna Kalu Pandhavai Rananidi Kaivartaka Keshavaha. If you compare the Pandavas army and Kauravas army, Kauravas army is always superior to Pandavas army in terms of numbers, in terms of power, in terms of the number of great people. Like that, Pandavas are inferior in terms of might. But when they are traveling in the ocean, Kaivartaka Keshavaha, the Krishna Paramatma took the oars and he is driving. Because of Paramatma driving the boat, they could reach the other shore. In this sloka, in this Dhyana sloka, there are a number of obstacles described. In spite of the obstacles, in spite of so many obstacles, they could reach the other side without any difficulty. All that is because Kaivartaka Keshavaha, because they have taken the resort of Bhagavan. They have taken refuge from Bhagavan. They could have this. So we'll proceed to the 9th sloka. Janma karma cha me divyam yevam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. Hey Arjuna, yaha me divyam janma karma evam tattvataha veti saha deham tyaktva punaha janma nayeti kintu saha mam yeti. So, hey Arjuna, my incarnations, actions are divine and pure. They are not mundane. Whoever understand my nature in the real sense, they will not take birth after death. They will become one with me. So, in this particular sloka, Paramatma saying, those who understand Ishvara, who understand Ishvara in the real sense, will not have a birth-death recycle. they will come out of birth death recycle. That means Ishvara Jnanam will help you getting moksham. What is moksham? Moksham means liberation. What is this moksham? Moksham means internal freedom. Manasika svecha. See, dependence, physical dependence. If you are not physically dependent on somebody, that means you have the freedom. For example, you are in a remote place and every day you have to travel 4 kilometers to reach your office. From your home up to 2 kilometers, there is no transportation. No auto rickshaw will come, no bus will be there. So you have to walk all alone. If you buy a scooter or a vehicle, then you got the freedom from walking. So similarly, the freedom in the mind, I depend on so many things. I depend on people, I depend on situations, I depend on articles, I depend on so many things externally, without which I feel my life is incomplete. So if I want to become whole and complete, I must have all these. So the freedom is to come out of this dependence. This is called freedom. The internal freedom, inner space, inner freedom, antara svecha, is called freedom. Now, because I feel that I am body, mind, sense complex, I have this feeling. Because I feel that I am body, I am mind, I am senses. If there is any problem with my body, then I feel I am totally dependent. So if there is a gray hair, I feel I am totally lost. So if I become old, I feel I am totally lost. I am helpless. So like that, the body, mind, sense complex make me dependent mentally. Physically, anyway, you can't help it. Mentally. So this mental dependence create all kinds of problem. Now, if I know myself, my real sense, if I know that I am not the body, mind, sense complex, if I know myself as Atma, I am Atma, Aham Atma, I am Atma, that is Satchidananda Paramatma. If I know that I am Atma, then the problem that is pertaining to body, mind, sense complex does not belong to me. So I can get that inner space, freedom. That freedom is called Jivan Mukti. Here Paramatma says, Ishvara Jnanam will give you the moksham, the inner freedom. Whereas in second chapter, we have a slokam in which Paramatma said, Atmanyev Atmanatushtaha Stita Prajnascha Atmanyev Atmanatushtaha Stita Prajna Tadochyate. So, the Atma Jnanam will give you liberation. In one place he said Atma Jnanam will give you liberation. Here he says Ishvara Jnanam will give you liberation, which is correct. Both are correct because Ishvara Jnanam is nothing but Atma Jnanam. Ishvara in Swarupa is same as Atma in Swarupa. My real self is Atma. The real self of the real Swarup of Ishvara is also Atma or Chaitanya. So, Atmajnanam or Ishvara Jnanam, both are same. Both mean Chaitanyam, the consciousness. So, the Atmajnanam and Ishvara Jnanam both mean the same thing. How is it possible? This is like, the wave and the ocean. If you take wave, the wave is born out of this ocean and it will have a very short life. This wave compares with a bigger wave and will have all kinds of problem. Whereas if the wave analyzes, the wave is basically consisting of water. Without water, the wave cannot exist. The shape of the wave is water. The weight of the wave is water. The existence of the wave is water. Therefore, in and through, the water alone exists, not the wave. In fact, the wave is nothing but a kind of appearance of water. Water alone is there, and we call that water in particular form as wave. So the reality of wave is water. In the same way, if you look at the ocean cannot exist without water. The water is the reality of the ocean. Therefore, the reality of the ocean as well as the reality of wave, both are nothing but the water itself. Therefore, the water alone appears as wave, the water alone appears as ocean. In the same way, the Chaitanyam appears as Ishvara, the Chaitanyam appears as Jiva. The reality of Chaitanyam, the reality of Jiva is Chaitanyam, the reality of Ishvara is also Chaitanya. So if you realize that in terms of the reality, Jiva is Ishvara. Jiva is nothing but Ishvara. Therefore, he is not having any problem. The problem of body-mind-sense complex belongs to body-mind-sense complex, not to Ishvara, not to the reality of Jiva. So, that is the analysis. If you have that analysis, you are free from the birth-death cycle and you get Jivan Mukti when you are living. At the end of your life, when the body falls, there won't be any further birth. You will become one with me. That is what Paramatma is saying in this particular sloka. Then we will go to the sloka number 10. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upasrita bahavo jnana tapasa putamadbhavamagataha. Having resorted to me, freed from attachment, fear and anger, absorbed in me and purified by Jnana Yoga, they will attain my nature. So, in the first stage of bhakti, Ishvara bhakti, we have to come out of this ragam, bhayam and krodham. The first stage of Karma Yoga is Ishvara Bhakti. Attitude and action dedicate the world dependence. Attitude and action, the world dependence to God dependence. Ishvara Bhakti. So, because of attachment, because of ragam, you get bhayam or krodham. Bhayam, because you feel that whatever you are attached to, you may lose it. You are attached to a person, then you have a fear of losing him. You are attached to a particular thing, you have a fear of losing it. So, the ragam, the attachment will cause fear, and it will also called krodham. If you want to achieve something, if you want to do something, out of attachment, you are into action and you want to do something in favor of a particular thing. So in your action, if there is an obstacle and you cannot achieve whatever you want to achieve, so naturally you get anger on the object of the obstacle. So bhayam is the point, because you feel that the object of attachment may go away from you. Krodham comes because in your action there are obstacles. Whoever is the cause of obstacle, you get krodham on them. So all these things are happening because you do not know your real sense. This is one thing. The second thing is, this is the highest way of looking at it. At the fundamental level, at the initial stage, what you have to understand is, the karma phala is not in your hand. You cannot dictate the karma phala. You have no choice in the karma phala. Karma phala is Ishvara's choice. Ishvara is giving the karma phala based on the prarabdham, based on whatever I deserve. So the karma phala is not in my choice. So I have to have the courage to accept the karma phala as a choiceless situation. I try my best to achieve a thing. While my efforts are there, my human effort is there, I do my best. There I have a choice. Whereas in receiving the karma phala, I do not have a choice. So this is where the karma yoga plays an important role. In karma yoga, we have the right attitude. Right attitude means after doing your action, you hand it over to Ishvara and receive the karma phala as Ishvara prasadam. So as Ishvara prasadam, you have to receive the karma phala. So initially, people are world dependent. World dependent means they depend on the world. In karma yoga, from world dependence, they change to God dependence. They hand over to God and take whatever the God gives. So from world dependence to God dependence. In the final stage, they have to convert as self-dependent. Depend on myself. To understand this, we should first we have Ekarupa Bhakti. Ekarupa Bhakti means we have the God in a particular form. And we believe that God is in the human form, and we do all kinds of things as though we are interacting with a human being. Like the Mirabai. So you have to imagine the God, your favorite God in the human form, and then do all kinds of prayers. In that stage, that stage is a Sakamukha stage, where you have the worldly things as the target and God is the medium. In Ekarupa Bhakti, you do all kinds of things like Pavalimpu Seva, and you dress God with different ornaments and like that. So you believe that God exists 100% in the human form. And some people do say that they talk to him, and God talks to these people every day. So that is okay, but that is not the ultimate form of the God. That is not the ultimate form of the God, because we have seen that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also came out of this stage, and the final reality of God is Chaitanyam. That Chaitanyam alone exists. Chaitanyam is not in the human form. If the human form is the ultimate reality of God, then there is no need for Krishna Paramatma to teach Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. In fact, that human form is available for Duryodhana, Karna, and other enemies. They are also seeing that human form. Looking at human form of the God is the ultimate thing. The enemies are also seeing that form. Kamsa also happened to see Krishna Paramatma in the human form. But that will not give you moksham. The moksham you can get only when you realize the real form of God. Ishvara Jnanam alone can give you the moksham. Ishvara Jnanam means you have to understand from Ekarupa Bhakti, you have to switch over to Vishwarupa Bhakti, Vishwarupa Bhakti to Arupa Bhakti. Ekarupa Bhakti, you have faith in one God, particularly in human form. Then Vishwarupa Bhakti, in that Vishwarupa Bhakti, you have that God in all forms. Everything that is available around you is God. Bhuvpado yasya nabhiveda suranila chandra suryau cha netre. So the God is all pervading. His feet are nothing but the earth, and then his navel is the sky. Like that, he is occupying this entire universe. So that means in the second stage, Vishwarupa Bhakti or Virat Rupa Bhakti, whatever is available to you, whatever you are enjoying, whatever appears to you in front of you is all God, is all the form of God. So this is called Aneka Rupa Bhakti. In Aneka Rupa Bhakti, God becomes a target. In Ekarupa Bhakti, the world becomes target, God is the a medium. God helps you to achieve your target. In Anekarupa Bhakti or Vishwarupa Bhakti, God is the target and the world is the medium. In Arupa Bhakti, the final stage, where you realize the God is the Chaitanyam, Atma. In that stage, God is neither the target nor it is means. It is neither means nor it is target. It is beyond the means and the target, because that alone is there. Nothing else is there. So in that Arupa Bhakti, we have to understand when the Jnani slowly he avoids this Ragam, Bhayam and Krodham, then he resorts to that God. Then by means of Jnanam, he is always reveling in that God. And finally, he becomes one with God. One with God means Manmaya. Manmaya means God alone becomes the target. And slowly he will turn out into the Arupa Bhakti. Mam Upastrita. Mam Upastrita means seeking the help of God. If you want the help of God, first you have to have human effort, and the God's favor also you have to seek. Like, these Rakshasas, they were churning. While they were churning, they had lot of obstacles. They got that Kalakota Visham and so many things. They had tough time while churning the milk, the Milky Ocean. Finally, they could get the Amritam. In the same way, when you want God, you have to put lot of effort, and then you can get the God. From Ekarupa Bhakti to Aneka Rupa Bhakti, Aneka Rupa Bhakti to Arupa Bhakti. This is the transformation one should undergo. Ekarupa Bhakti is Dvaita Bhakti. Aneka Rupa Bhakti is Visishtadvaita Bhakti. Arupa Bhakti is Advaita Bhakti. So when you are in Viswarupa Bhakti, everything around you is God. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yat juhoshi dadasi yat. So whatever you are doing, all that is God. Because in Viswarupa Bhakti, everything is God, and you cannot avoid God. So you see God and God alone. So the spiritual goal must be your ultimate goal. In the initial stage, people will not have spirituality as the ultimate goal, because they may say that we don't want moksham. So when people say that they do not want moksham, God also cannot help. So initially you have to have the goal as the world. Slowly you have to travel from that stage to switch over. That goal is God. And finally, God is the goal and the world is the means. That is the second stage. Then the final stage, when the Arupa Ishvara comes, everything is God. There's nothing that is other than God. So there the Lakshyam, the target and the means, you have transcended, because you have become whole and complete. So there are 4 stages in this. First stage is you should have spiritual goal. The second stage is, for this spiritual goal, you need to take the God's refuse. Third stage is you have to cleanse yourself by avoiding ragam, dvesham, bhayam, krodham and all that. The fourth and final stage is know the Atma Jnanam by exposing yourself to scriptures, by taking the help of a Shrotriya Brahmanishta. You can get Atma Jnanam by Sravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. You can get Atma Jnanam and get yourself liberated. So this is the essence. Then 11th sloka we'll see. Ye yada mam prapadyante tams tadaiva bhajamyaham mama vatmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasaha. Hey Partha, whoever approaches me, hey Partha, whoever approaches me with any desire, I bless them with that desire itself. O Arjuna, people follow my path by all means. So initially the people are not having full interest in spirituality. They will have interest only in the worldly accomplishments. So let them have. So, ye yadamam prapadyante, whoever approaches me with whatever the desire they have, tan tadayeva. Tan tadayeva means in the same way, tadayeva bhajami, I will bless them in the same way. Manushya sarvasaha mama vatma anuvartante. Manushya sarvasaha means these people in all directions. Mama vatma means they will come to my direction. Anuvartante means they will follow me. Hey Partha, the bhaktas, they do lot of prayers for want of local accomplishments. Whatever the way they pray, I see that their desires are fulfilled. And these people, they ultimately reach me in different ways. Though they start with local accomplishments, ultimately they will take up the spiritual path. The spiritual goal is a primary goal. And there are many people who say, I do not want a spiritual goal. I don't want moksha at all. So Bhagavan says, I do not want to impose that goal on these people. So if they want freedom, swecha, antara swecha, they will slowly understand that this world, though they accomplish the worldly things, they understand these accomplishments are having three defects. What are the three defects? They are dukkha misritatvam. They are dukkha misritatvam means all the worldly accomplishments, they do not give the ultimate happiness. They are having lot of dukkham mixed with it, lot of misery mixed with it, lot of misery mixed with it. If you desire a particular thing, there is a dukkham in getting it, arjane dukkham. Once you get the object of your choice, you have to safeguard it. Rakshane dukkham. First you have arjane dukkham and then secondly you have rakshane dukkham. Arjane dukkham and rakshane dukkham. Then this is what we have. So with this dukkha misritatvam, a defect, the second defect is, even though you could achieve, you could get the thing you wanted, but it is not, it will not give the complete satisfaction. You will see a better thing in the market. Like the iPhone. The moment you purchase an iPhone, there will be a higher version in the market. So the automobiles also. So always you will be pining to get the latest model. So atrupti karatvam, there will be always dissatisfaction. You are not happy and satisfied at any given point. So dukkha misritatvam is one defect, atrupti karatvam is another defect in the worldly accomplishment. Then the third defect is bandhakatvam. Bandhakatvam means the objects bind you. The objects will create a bondage. The people around you create a bondage. They bind you. Situations bind you. Places bind you. So you become a bonded person. You will be shackled. So the dependency is a real problem, and because of the dependency, you feel that you are not liberated. So the worldly accomplishments have got the three defects: dukkha misritatvam, atruptikaratvam, and bandhakatvam. So because of that, there is no complete happiness and the satisfaction. The complete happiness and satisfaction you will get only when you realize your real self. When you understand your real self, you get that complete happiness. So 12th sloka will see. Kanchanta karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha kshipram hi barnushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. So by doing sakama karmas, by doing all kinds of things for the worldly things, they try to pray the local gods. They do not think of Arupa Ishvara. By praying to the local gods, they do get the desires fulfilled. The desires are fulfilled in no time. Kshipram bhavati. Quickly they can get their desires fulfilled. Kanchanta karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devata. So they try to resort to all these devatas and pray the devatas. If I pass my examination, I'll shave my head, tonsure my head. I will offer you this much. Like that, they have all these kinds of offerings to God, and then see that their desires are fulfilled. Kshipram manushe loke. So in this loka, kshipram means quickly, siddhir bhavati karmaja. So these people who are into the worldly affairs, they are able to fulfill their wishes. So Veda Purvam, there are two portions in Veda. Veda Purvam, which is the major portion of the Veda, 75% of the Veda consists of these kind of rituals to fulfill the worldly desires. This is called Karma Margam, Karma Kanda. Only a minor portion, which is called Vedantam, Jnana Margam, takes you to the moksham. It will give you the internal freedom. So initially the people, they have to start their spiritual journey with this kind of things, nothing wrong. But only thing is, Paramatma says you can have any number of desires, but only those desires must be dharmic in nature. They should not harm others. Your desires should not harm others. Dharmic in nature. First condition. Your desires must be moderate. Moderate means you should not think of too high a thing which you cannot achieve. You should be always within your boundaries. Your desires must be moderate. Third thing is, the desires must be non-binding. Non-binding means when you are doing your karma kanda, in order to achieve a thing, you must have a clear cut understanding that the results are choiceless. Results do happen when you do a ritual which is mentioned in the Veda, but sometimes they do not happen. That means the karma phala is not guaranteed. Why it is not guaranteed? The karma phala depends on your previous karma also. If your prarabdha is not favoring your karma, then you won't get your karma phala in your favor. Sometimes you may get totally different from you. So you can do your karma in anticipation of getting a result, but if you don't get the result in your favor, you should not brood. You should know the karma phala is a choiceless situation. That means any number of karmas you can do with a non-binding attitude. It should not bind you. You can have any number of karmas, dharmic karmas you can do, moderate karmas you can do, non-binding karmas you can do. So with this, we have completed up to 12th sloka. We'll proceed more in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om